I never used to be the kind of person who double-checked the locks or looked twice at a partner's phone. For 6 years, Maya was my anchor. She was a landscape architect, someone who looked at empty spaces and saw exactly how to make them beautiful. We shared an old brick apartment in Seattle, filled with plants she had brought back to life. Our life wasn't flashy, but it felt solid. We had our routines, our Sunday mornings, our shared dreams of buying a house with a real garden. I trusted her implicitly, with the quiet certainty of someone who believed love was a simple, unbreakable equation. But trust doesn't shatter all at once. It dissolves in tiny, almost invisible drops. It began with small changes in the atmosphere. The way she started taking her laptop to the balcony to work, even when the evening air was freezing. The sudden password change on her tablet. A new, sharp interest in business networking events that always seemed to run late on Thursday nights. I told myself it was just stress, that she was pushing for a promotion. Paranoia is a quiet poison. Once you take a sip, you start tasting it in everything. One night, I sat up late waiting for her. Her shared calendar said she was at a client dinner downtown, but when I called to see if she needed a ride, her phone went straight to voicemail. When she finally walked through the door after midnight, she smelled of rain and expensive whiskey, looking startled to see me sitting in the dark kitchen. She laughed off my concern, claiming she had lost track of time because the restaurant had terrible cell reception. But I knew that restaurant. It was in the heart of the city, where signal was perfect. I didn't say anything, but a cold weight settled in my chest. Over the next few weeks, that weight grew. I noticed her getting dressed with an intensity she usually reserved for major presentations. She bought a delicate gold necklace she claimed was a self-gift, but she always took it off the moment she came home. Every instinct I had was screaming, but I kept quiet, terrified of what the truth might cost me. Then came the Friday night that changed everything. We were getting ready to meet some of her colleagues for a gallery opening. Maya was stunning, wearing an elegant green coat over a dark dress. As she stood near the mirror, adjusting her hair, I noticed something white sticking out from the lining of her coat sleeve. It looked like a small corner of paper, tucked away too carefully to be trash. My heart began to race. I stepped closer, my voice carrying a forced lightness. "Wait, you've got something in your sleeve," I murmured. Before she could react, I reached out and gently pulled it. It was a small, folded card. Maya's face drained of color. She reached for it, her hand trembling, but I pulled back and unfolded it. Written in a sharp, unfamiliar handwriting were the words, "The cabin is booked for next weekend. Count the days." There was no signature, just an initial L. The air left my lungs. The room seemed to tilt, the ambient sounds of a city outside fading into a dull roar. Maya stood completely frozen, her eyes wide, staring at the card in my hand. "Julian, let me explain," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It's not what it looks like." I stared at the elegant script, then at the woman I had built my life with. "Then tell me exactly what it is," I said, my voice eerily calm. She tried to tell me it was a joke, a misunderstanding with a designer from her firm named Lucas. But the lies fell apart under their own weight. "We've been distant," she finally sobbed, dropping her head into her hands. "You've been so focused on your work, and I felt like I was living with a ghost." It was a classic defense, turning her choice into my failure. "I might have been busy, Maya, but I didn't seek out a cabin with someone else to solve it," I replied. "If you felt alone, you talked to me. You don't build a separate life in the shadows." The silence that followed was heavy and suffocating. I didn't scream or throw things. The anger was there, but beneath it was a profound, quiet exhaustion. I grabbed my car keys and my jacket. "Please don't walk out," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized the woman I loved had vanished long before tonight. "You already walked out, Maya," I said quietly. "You just forgot to tell me." I spent the night driving aimlessly, watching the windshield wipers sweep away the relentless Seattle drizzle. I parked by the harbor, watching the ferry boats drift across the dark water. The phone kept lighting up in the cup holder, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I felt a strange mix of crushing grief and sudden, sharp clarity. The next morning, the apartment was quiet. Maya was sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes red and puffy, surrounded by half-packed boxes. She didn't offer any more excuses. She told me the truth. It had started as casual coffee meetings that turned into late-night drinks, which eventually crossed a line. "I lost myself," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Julian." Her apology felt like rain on a dry lake, too little, too late to change the landscape. "I hope you find whatever it is you were looking for," I told her. I packed a single suitcase and walked away from the apartment we had spent 6 years building together. The months that followed were a masterclass in rebuilding. I found a small studio apartment overlooking the water. My life became quiet, measured, and simple. I focused on my work, took long walks along the coastline, and slowly learned how to exist in my own company again. Healing wasn't a sudden breakthrough. It was a quiet, daily choice to let go of the anger. I stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering where she was, and began to reclaim my own peace. One day, a package arrived containing my remaining books and a small, handwritten note from Maya. It simply read, "I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to be honest when it mattered." I didn't feel angry reading those words. I just felt a quiet sense of closure. I folded the note and put it away. Forgiveness, I realized, isn't about letting someone off the hook for what they did. It's about releasing the weight you've been carrying so you can finally move forward. You can't control another person's loyalty, but you can control your own healing. Looking out at the gray Seattle sky, I realized I was finally free.